bring the meeting for the Air Shirley Regional School Committee for Wednesday, November 13th to order. And with that, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If folks would find the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll apologize, Michelle. Let me let folks in attendance know that tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded by APAC and ASRSD. Any audience members who wish to record any part of the meeting must inform the chair, who will announce the recording. This is to comply with the Mass Wiretap statute. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items may, in fact, be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Per Air Shirley Regional School Committee policy, public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between citizens in the committee. It's an opportunity to express an opinion on issues of school committee business. Citizens will have 3 minutes to express their views. Any staff members addressing the committee are reminded of their obligation under state and federal student record laws with respect to maintaining the confidentiality of student record information and refraining from disclosing any personally identifying information regarding students. With that, Michelle, let's start a roll call.
Mr. Brasnian?
Here.
Mrs. Kennard?
Here.
Mr. Quincy?
Here.
Mrs. Reese?
Here.
Mr. Rupert?
Here.
Mrs. Phantom?
Here.
All right. Before we get to public comment, we're going to turn it over to our student representative for the evening, Mr. Colin Holbrook.
Hello everybody, hope you guys are doing good.
Good.
Normally I have Neil with me, but I'm going solo today. Not much is going on at school right now, but the biggest thing is probably the quarter closing. That's always a little bit stressful because you gotta make sure your grades are all set before they get locked in. Sometimes that means like, I know I had to talk with like a teacher or two to just like fix like one thing, but normally they're pretty flexible. Besides that, sports just ended for the spring, which means I get a little bit of time before the next sports season, which is hockey. I'm really looking forward to that. But in the meantime, I get a lot of free time, so yeah, it's pretty nice. I guess the other thing is probably AP classes. I know that they're starting to kind of get real now, like AP physics. Some of the stuff that we're learning, there's too many letters, not enough numbers. It's getting difficult, but I'm managing, so yeah. Any questions from anybody?
In preparation for our upcoming holiday season, right? These are usually the 2 months where you have the least days of school. How do you decompress? Like as a student, like what is your like, I cannot wait until I can do X?
Probably, I like to go mountain biking, especially during the, like, just get outdoors. But like being in school a lot, it's nice to just get outside. And I like to get food with my friends. Like with the upcoming early releases, I'm probably gonna go get food with my friends.
How many days does it take you to like where you finally feel like it's vacation, or does it feel like that like the first day you don't have to go to school, or do you feel like it takes you a little bit more time?
It probably takes me like a day or two just so where I can like make sure all my homework's done, because homework's got to be done before I feel like it's really vacation or any time to relax. So yeah, probably like 1 or 2 days, but then I can just enjoy the vacation.
Awesome.
So I see other members of our athletics are here tonight. So just wanted to say congratulations on the soccer season. I know the final game was definitely a tough one. The first round was a great win though. You guys had a great season. I think that was an unbelievable team. So just wanted to say congrats on a still a fantastic season.
Thank you.
We're good? Mm-hmm. All right, Colin, thank you. You did great.
Thank you.
All right. Adam, do we have something on the agenda so I see we have the golf team here.
Yes.
Who I don't see on the agenda, so I didn't know.
That was an oversight. We did ask the golf team to come to recognize their state championship today.
Great.
So if I could ask if we could go out of our order, this would fall under 48 hours.
Yep.
Though it should have been. And I would also suggest that right after that, before public comment, if we could do the music boosters.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
So, some great news. Our golf team won the Division III state championship this year. They have been a very successful team for quite some time, cultivating and winning the state championship this year. So we're going to recognize the players and the coach, and we're going to have Coach Guglini just say a few remarks about the teams before we hand out some certificates of recognition.
So this is their championship. They did it. And we've been at it for 4 years. Right? 4 years we've gone to states. Last year we became the Central Massachusetts champions. And we went to states again this year. We were the Central Massachusetts champions again this year. But this year we achieved our goal and we won the state championship. We had a great season, regular season. All 9 of these gentlemen really put their hearts into the season, all season long. We won 12-3. We lost 2 of our matches to Division I teams. Who knows what would have happened? We only lost to the Division I team that went to a playoff. I don't know if you know this. And Division I went to a playoff. They lost in the playoff, but we lost to that team by only one stroke.
Wow.
So the boys can make a play. We then, of course, qualified for sectionals, which a lot of teams call districts, right? And we won that. We were the Central Massachusetts champions, but our goal was to go to states and win states. And so we went there and did that, and we are the state champions. And not only that, but Rito Nation was the medalist at the state tournament and was the individual state champion.
Raise your hand.
We went and played in New England, and that's the 12 best players from all 6 states, and then finished with a tie of the 5th best score there. But I want to introduce each one if I can. Is that
Please,
okay?
absolutely.
Yes.
Tyler Trask, step forward to say hello. Tyler Trask. Cam Riesel. Kenny Lewis, step forward, Kenny. Matt Marchand. Troy Layton.
Hello, everybody.
Rito Nation. Tommy Bergen. Jason Turner. And Adi Patel. Adi and Jason were named to the League All-Star team this year. And Tommy and Reed were named co-league most valuable players this year.
Wow.
So, state champions.
Wonderful. Just for my own processing, if you're a freshman, do a quick raise of hands. Any freshmen on the team?
Not this.
Sophomores? Okay. Juniors? And then seniors?
Great future.
All right, so we've got all right, that's amazing. Do we get like a sign on the highway? What's the, what recognition do we get? Like home of the,
We'll get a sign somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know where
Route
yet.
2.
all right, I was gonna say Route 2 is,
Yeah,
We'll
Route 2
work
is
with
pretty
both
good.
towns and make
All
sure
right.
that is recognized. That's actually a great idea.
all right, wonderful. Congratulations. Other,
So, Mr. Chairman, I want to say that some of the, we don't have any freshmen this year. We've got some upperclassmen that are great players.
Yeah.
They're our future, right? But some of these players have been coaching since they were in 6th grade. So I think maybe Reed and Kenny and Adi, since 6th grade.
It's amazing.
Super. Great.
So we do have just a small token of our appreciation for the hard work. I haven't actually go through this out, and I'll print them out, but I do want to say, I was talking to Mr. Dooley in the hall before coming in, and it's absolutely a team win, but what an outstanding coach, because the way he was speaking about his team and these students with such respect and admiration and fondness for them it's what we want to hear as administrators and former teachers. But we want all of our adults to emulate what Mr. Dooley did. So thank you.
I love these kids.
Yeah, it was obvious.
So, So, redonation, is that your first one?
It sure is.
Redonation. Individual state champion, Tommy Bergen. Medalist at leagues and at sectionals. And Reed was the medalist, of course, at the state tournament. Adi Patel. Named to the All-Star team for the league. Jason Turner. Named to the league All-Star team. Matt Marchand. Academic All-Star. Kenny Lewis, senior this year. Cam Riesel. And Tyler Trask.
We got one more. Troy?
Troy Layton.
Really
Nice
work.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bivens.
You want a photo op here, like behind the school committee maybe? Yes. Yeah, guys, come sit behind the school committee.
Sure. They used to follow.
Very nice, guys.
Way to go, Coach.
Very nice. Very nice. Good job. Very nice. Happy to have you.
For that.
I assume we can have them sign it afterwards.
Love you all. I'll be out here.
Pictures. Need pictures.
Parents all set?
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. All right, thank you, team. Thank you, parents. Up next, approval of Music Boosters out-of-state field trip. Miss Sarah Gibbons.
Hi, everyone. I am Sarah Gibbons, I'm the chair of the Air Shirley Music Boosters, and we are here requesting to go on an overnight out-of-state trip to the Music in the Parks Festival in Hershey, Pennsylvania. We are looking at traveling May 1st through May 4th. Day one would just be pure travel to get there. Day two, they would spend the morning doing the Hershey experience. You go through the candy factory, make their own chocolates, do a trolley ride through downtown Hershey. Then they would go back and get ready for their performance, and Friday night they would do their adjudication and be judged on their performances at local schools. Then on Saturday, they would spend the day in the park at Hershey, and where the awards will be for their competition the night before, and then on Sunday, we would travel home. I don't know if anyone has any questions?
Is this the, is it similar to, I want to say like 2 years ago in Ohio?
Correct.
I know they
It's the
moved.
same Music in the Parks. They are all over the United States, so it's a very similar process. So it's just a place where these kids that have worked all year can showcase their performances. It would be for a concert band, jazz band, and the choir. They would get, after their performances, they get a clinic type thing back where they get immediate feedback from the judges as well as the judges' tapes, so they can then come home and work on anything that was suggested.
I loved that personally because they took
We,
it
2
to
years ago, I
heart.
chaperoned the trip. We went to Ohio. The
Yeah.
kids were amazing. They were very well behaved, very polite out in everywhere we went, and their performances are great. They've been working really hard the past 3 years. We played this past weekend at the Veterans Program in Shirley and got a lot of compliments at how much improvement has been over the past few years with them, so it's kind of nice to see that.
Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, I would entertain a vote to approve this trip.
I make a motion that we approve the out-of-state overnight trip held by Sarah Gibbons for the music festival in Hershey, Pennsylvania on May 1st to May 4th.
Seconded?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
you very
have
much.
fun.
Have fun.
Thanks.
All right. Moving along, we are going to now move to public comment. And yeah, anyone in the room, we don't have audio working because of Zoom, so we'll start and stay in the room. One at a time, you've got 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself and the town you're representing.
Sure. Bill Manchester, 190 Townsend Road of Shirley, Mass. This is for an agenda regarding the Panther statue later on. I've been elected to speak by many of those attending and some that couldn't make it tonight. Feel free to speak as you feel needed as well, though. I'm just here to express my disappointment in school committee member Jim Quinty for his decision to place the statue in an unapproved location. I'm a community member who is a career educator and coach with 30 years in the classroom as a math teacher, currently a K-12 math coordinator of a Massachusetts school district, have over 50 seasons coaching at the college, high school, middle school, and youth levels, including 28 seasons as a high school head coach of several schools. I know how important it is to have a positive school community and culture in the building. The sports complex is one of the top in the area. It allows faculty and staff to walk right out, see the students play, and that helps build that community. So just some of the behavior as we led up to these decisions are frustrating. I dedicated personally countless hours to this community and its athletes as past president of both Air Shirley Youth Football and Cheer and Shirley Youth Baseball and Softball. Took time away from my own family, my 3 boys, to put up signs, knock on doors, do everything I could to get this field built. Mr. Quinty, you actively worked against this goal. You went against the decision of the committee to which you belong. You abused your position as a business owner and school committee member, and you cost taxpayers money by delaying this project. You also stated we should eliminate the baseball field off the project and the baseball team should be cut. They've made the state semis 2 years ago and state quarterfinals this past year. After the project was approved, there was an open call to the communities to celebrate support for this project by purchasing a brick with the message of your choice, as my family did. So despite your aggressive, inaccurate, and damaging campaign against this project, you, Mr. Quinty, seem to think you can bypass procedure and cement your name into this community space. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Dan Gleason, 24 Howard Street, Air, Massachusetts. I was an original Air Shirley Regional School Committee member along with Mrs. Reshoots and Mr. Quinty through April of 2019. So the first attempt at the Fields project, I was deeply involved. I headed up the subcommittee of the school committee working with Jonathan DeForge. We constantly ran up against Mr. Quinty's defiance of school committee policy. I documented that very well in a December 2018 meeting about the various policies that were violated. That seems to have continued up until this current time, not adhering to the various policies. Again, I won't bore you with the details of that. So to reward him with the appearance of what, forgive me if I have any of my facts incorrect. I was hoping to hear your debate before speaking, but I understand that's not the way to do it. That statute was approved by the subcommittee of the Fields that I was also on at the last vote, or not. It was recommended to go in the Rotary. I understand from speaking to some individuals that the school committee then approved that location. So to just throw up your hands and leave it there and interfere with the Norton sign, the family gave us $500,000 to help finance this, and it's named for that gentleman in a place that wasn't approved. I really think you hurt your credibility if you decide to just punt and leave it there. And we hope you take action tonight to rectify the situation of the naming and the location of that statue. Thank you.
I'm Doug Preston.
Justin, 24 Calvin Street, Air, Mass. I was part of the original from start to finish on the field committee. I'm not sure why someone that voted 3 times against the field, lobbied against the field, in front of his own voting area every single time. Also, during any speaking engagements, he proceeded to always twist what the purpose of the field committee was and switch it around to some crazy notion that the field committee did not do their job. So now, to have his statue put in that field complex is completely wrong. And I would hope that the committee tonight, superintendent and the principal, would remove that from the field and have it placed somewhere else. Thank you.
It's going to give some space for any other. Okay.
Just bear with me here. First of all, that was a miserable time. The entire thing was a miserable time, but you've mischaracterized many things in your comments. My husband, ad nauseum, said every time he spoke about the fields, I'm not opposed to a fields project. I think that's 7.2 million is not too much to pay for the fields project. I think this is a terrible way to spend the money. Yes, we disagreed. We don't believe turf fields are good for many reasons. We believe that was twisted and misrepresented ad nauseum at the meetings. There are more injuries on sports fields that are made of turf than there are of grass, so that was, we won't go back. I'm not going backwards, but that was mischaracterized. It's my understanding that about 18 months ago or so, the school committee accepted the gift, which was given because that was one thing Jim felt was a good way to spend the money. He drove around to so many schools that we played against, and he looked at their entrances, and he loved the ones that were really appealing, that had a mascot, that you walked in and you felt like you were in a really nice place. That was an area he cared about. So that's why it was. However, that's what he wanted to contribute to it, because we were never against the fields project. Our kids all played on those fields all the time. It's not true that we were against it. We thought it should be different. Some people felt like he couldn't keep his opinion and he should have gone along with the group, but that's a good idea. That happens often, but it doesn't have to happen in a school committee. It's okay to disagree. Just one second. But back to my point. The school committee accepted the gift 18 months ago. And then I haven't been able to locate any of the minutes from the Fields Committee. I looked for them, but as far as we know, the gift just sat there. And for 18 months, the Fields Committee could have taken any action. They could have put it anywhere they wanted to put it, but nothing was done. And let's be honest, let's just put it all out on the table. This is a personal vendetta. It's gone on for years. It damaged my kids, it damaged my family, it's still damaging me today, even as I stand here before you. This is a personal vendetta against us. It's toxic, and it really has no place here on the school committee. It's really a personal issue that apparently people will never get over. So after nothing happening for 18 months, and the realization that maybe the school committee's hands are tied, maybe nothing's gonna happen, a decision was made and it happened. Was it the right decision? Maybe not. But we love Aunt Shirley School. We've been behind it since my oldest child was 3 years old. We've committed lots and lots and lots of time and energy in front of the scenes and behind the scenes. And if you want to talk about how personal this vendetta is, we were also told 2 years ago that we weren't allowed to contribute to the Shirley Holdenwood Trail Run anymore, which were part of its inception and contributed to forever. So people make lots of decisions about what you can and can't do if you're in the in-group here, and it's simply not okay. Was it the right way to go? I don't know, but it was gonna sit in the box behind the school forever, and it's meant for the kids. It's not meant to cause any more conflict. It's meant for the kids. It's meant to make the school better, because we try and make the school better too. Yes, there was a major disagreement, but we care about the school and we try to make it better too. I think that's all I have to say, but let me just check.
I'm gonna thank you. Yep, thank you. Sorry. One thing I was not good at as a teacher was wait time. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anyone, yeah. If you go up together, you have 3 minutes. If you kind of stagger, you get 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll go Cole New, 264 Alpha White Air Mass. Kevin's my uncle. I think the reason that Kevin's so strong about this is he watched his son as a freshman, hope to get the field pass. Didn't get the pass. Watched his son again, hope for the fields, didn't get a pass, didn't get to play on the field at all. Hoping senior year, breaks his leg, doesn't get to play on the field at all. He was just hoping to play on them at least one time in 4 years. Had to play, they were saying 53% of NFL fields are grass. We were playing on dirt. Those two had track runners. Got to run on, I don't even know what you want to call it, asphalt, not track, and the fact that it just kept on going, no, it just kind of hurts. Philip, athletes, didn't get to watch his kids play. Or you guys watch his son play now, guess senior year football, that's it. It's 1 year, so it's just, that's why Kevin's obviously still so mad. That's all I got.
Thank you.
I'm Isabel Bresnian for Wachusett Ave East in Air, Massachusetts. I'm a 3-season athlete. I do cross-country, indoor, and outdoor track. I spend every afternoon on our new track, and it's an environment that I'm very grateful we have now, and I feel very bad for the children and all the students that didn't have that same environment. We weren't allowed to host meets, we couldn't have games, and I know my father and many other field committee members and town members put in so much effort to push for that, and to see it fail time and time again. I stood out with my father, we held signs in the freezing cold, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the math came out to 1 Dunkin' coffee a week is what each member of the town paid in taxes for. If that, the main concern to what I believed was the cost of all of the members of the town, that's what everyone was so concerned about, and it was 1 coffee a week that you can sacrifice to benefit the community in such an immense way. The fields now, we're hosting a Braun Fields, I don't know the other school, playoff game, and they're on our track. They're on our track and fields, and we host district track meets. It's become such an attraction for our school. I think it has benefited the school in so many ways, and I think without that, we just wouldn't have the same community, especially, I had 3 different sports before I did track and cross country. Without the track we have now, without that environment, which has grown so much since the fields have been developed, I wouldn't be doing that sport. I wouldn't have decided to do that with my time, and I think it's a program that's continuing to grow as a result of the fields. I think all of our sports and all of our programs have only grown with the new development of our fields, and I personally think with that statue, when I walk in and that's the first thing I see, I find it to be disrespectful. I think it's disrespectful just towards the amount of work that people put in. I think it's a wonderful donation, and I think it should be placed somewhere else, is personally what I believe, and I just think overall, a donation, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. I think where I wasn't at any of the other meetings, but sounds like maybe it was supposed to be placed on the Rotary or in some other spot in the town, and I think that'd be wonderful. I just strongly think it's disrespectful towards those who put in so much time and effort to push for these fields.
All right. With that, let's move on to our consent agenda. We've got regular session minutes for release, as well as AP and payroll warrants. Any questions, comments, or discussions, or corrections? Joyce?
Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda with 6 warrants on it, and the October 16th, 2024 regular session minutes for release.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to new business. We've already done the out-of-state field trip. We're going to move the budget timeline to, we're going to move items B and C to follow D and E for those playing at home. So the first item on our agenda for new business is a discussion around policy FF, naming new facilities. I wanted to bring this policy to us because I know one of the open questions that came up through our public comment was the naming of the statue. And what I want to do is I want us to take a look at this and, one, understand the policy as it's written, and entertain any discussion for future revisions, recognizing that our existing policy does not necessarily describe any process to which, like, names could be reviewed or put out to, further discussion. So the way this policy has been written and the way it's been implemented, we have, as a school committee, generally we get a letter, we vote yes or no, and then we sort of move on. In 2020, February of 2020, there had been a plan to revise the policy as such. Needless to say, come March and April 2020, that was not a discussion the school committee was having. So I wanted to open up that discussion. I know we've talked about policies recently, but wanted to give the committee an opportunity to make comments and consider potential places we would entertain revisions for this policy in the future.
My first recommendation would be that we have specific definitions, so that way there's no confusion. So for example, if we're saying the word facilities, if you're being literal, you may think a building, whereas facilities could mean grounds, it could mean everything that's on the ground. So I think having the specific definitions as to what those items mean probably is going to be one of the first things that would be helpful in providing clarity, in addition to creating structure or process around naming any facilities or items therein.
Yes, Joyce.
Erica, just to clarify what you were referring to there, were you looking at down at the bottom of page number 1, which says naming of structures, signs, equipment, wall displays, rooms, areas, etc., owned, operated, controlled by the Air Shirley Regional School District? Did you want that defined?
Yeah, I guess we might need to put examples in there. I mean, to me, it seemed pretty straightforward, but I know as we were having, kind of coming up with different ideas outside of that, so that there's no additional confusion. Maybe we need to have examples there. I don't know if we need to do an any and all to make it more specific, but that was...
Like right now it says real property.
Right.
And again, like right now we're talking about a statue. I would assume that a statue falls under real property. Does the bench from the...
I think it says bench. Can't find it in the emails.
Say that again?
Can't find it in the computer.
Do we want to have it put up?
He could.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so again, like, we could leave it as real property, but, you know, again, does that mean a bookshelf in a classroom if a teacher puts a plaque on it? Like, are we,
Right.
like, mincing that, or like, is there some line that, or some distinction that we would want to draw in terms of where we want to?
Like the identification of a public area and space. I mean, I know it seems,
Yeah.
I don't know, meticulous or extremely detailed, but
So I'm pretty sure March 2020 with COVID and everything,
Yeah.
policies kind of went flying into the wind. And because everybody was too concerned with everything else that was going on. It sounds like what you're saying, Erica and Chris, if I understand, is that this should be delineated a little bit better. This is not ready for continuing at this point. It's got a lot in here, but maybe it doesn't have the specifics or the parameters that you need.
Yeah, and I think specifically saying in March 2020, the school committee was discussing including things like, we also want to call out the school committee maintains sole discretion and authority for approval of naming structures, signs, like it has a list. There's also, not here, but I've seen other school districts where they'll say, before naming, a name needs to be submitted. It needs to then be sort of shared publicly where there's an opportunity for the public to weigh in and respond to proposals. So it's not something that on our agenda on a Tuesday, we see a letter, we look and we say, oh, that looks good, but there's not really, unless the public is scanning every weekly agenda, which, I don't know, maybe you all are, but I didn't. So there could be things like that that we would also include. The question I have is, we just approved policies, this one went through. Do we want to revisit this one? I don't know that we have a lot of naming things in our future, but right now it seems like we've got some potential holes in the policy.
I think we should.
Kevin, and then Erica.
I might just be repeating that. I think we need to define the process for any naming rights, how they get reviewed, what the right process is. Are there different committees, or at least the option of different committees that should review this? And then what are the requirements for it to come for a vote after that process?
Sorry, Erica, then Jim.
The only other thing I was thinking of is that we do want to include any and all donations, so that at any given time, even though people mean well and may have a good idea, everything is brought before the committee, so that way we could make sure that we would, whatever process we have in place, we're always consistently providing the one standard across there, because right now we're talking about like naming, right? Naming facilities, but if we're not starting from the very beginning, of even though it's very well intentioned, anything, starting the process from there and then just work its way down. Does that make sense?
I think so. Jim?
Yeah, I'm going back 4 years, but I think most of the discussion, and the only change we made from the previous policy, and I think Joyce can probably remember this, is that what we didn't want to have happen is what happens so often, there's some tragic event, like a medical event for a student or teacher or staff, and then there's an influx of emotion, and then something happens. You know, we wanted to give ourselves some protection from that.
Right.
And I think the only thing we added in that was that someone had to be deceased for 3-4 years to be in consideration. Right. And then outside of that, I think we just sort of considered that, you know, we don't really do a lot of this, but I can certainly see, I don't see anything wrong with saying, like, look, this is going to be our process for naming anything. So there'll be complete clarity.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that we separately also have the memorials policy, where again, what we don't want is there's a, you know, I went to school at the time where a student got in an accident, the locker gets decorated, and it's a thing that, again, well-intentioned, but not always helpful.
Right.
Are there any other thoughts? Is there general consensus? Again, this isn't something for a vote, but is the committee interested in seeing a draft of a new version of FF at an upcoming meeting?
So we accepted this when we did the whole book of
We did accept this,
right?
yep.
Okay,
So this is an accepted
One
policy.
doesn't
My
say-
question is like, oh gosh, is this one that slipped through? Because on a first read, you're like, yep, this feels fine. And yeah, so looking for input on whether it is worth reviewing or reading a draft version of policy FF for the in an upcoming meeting. Yeah,
I'd like a revision.
great. Are there any other things? I'm happy to take a stab at a first draft. Anything? Oh.
Just to clarify, our actual policy is this.
Absolutely.
This is not
That is not the policy.
the
That
March
is
2020 draft.
that was what the committee had been discussing, and then it fell to the wayside. Many of the things in that are the sort of things that came up as like, wouldn't it be great if? And so acknowledging that
Thank you.
in 4 years ago, this committee had some foresight into things that we'd want to include. We didn't get to it, and it would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. So this is not included in our...
No, the Jonathan, the DeForge draft was nothing
just
at this
never got
point.
put into
Yes.
the regular policies.
It never even got discussed. The draft was written, and it never actually made it onto, yeah.
Mr. Rinda, could you read, Dr. Rinda, could you read what our actual policy is? Because we don't have it in our...
Oh, it should be in the...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't look
If it's
at the
helpful,
page. Excuse me?
it reads...
But how about you read it anyway?
Naming new facilities. Only the regional school committee can name school buildings, facilities, grounds, rooms within a school buildings, or any real property under the purview of the school committee. Choosing a name is an important matter that deserves thoughtful attention. Personal prejudice, favoritism, political pressure, or temporary popularity should not be an influence in a naming dedication. The committee traditionally considers distinguished local citizens or state and national leaders whose names would lend dignity and stature to the school. An honoree may be a person who is living or has been deceased for 3 or more years for consideration.
So I think I agree with Erica that we should probably redesign this a little bit and flesh it out a little bit more for general understanding.
All right.
What do you think?
That's great. Yeah, that was my opinion too, and I wanted to open it up to this group to decide, is this a policy that is worth coming back to? We should do this with all our policies from time to time. It seems like this is one to start with.
Okay.
All right. With that, let's move on to agenda item...
Chris, who wants to bell the cat?
I don't
Who
know what
wants
that
to
means.
rewrite this
Oh.
I'll do
policy?
it. I'll do it.
I have never heard that expression before, Joyce, but I'm...
Well, it used to be a discussion between the mice, that the
Yeah.
cat should have a bell, but who's going to bell the cat?
Okay. I appreciate that. I will find a moment to use that in my life outside of school committee.
You'll appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Item 7E, naming the Panther statue, discussion and vote. So we have a statue. It has a name of Panther Malone from our former superintendent. That is something we haven't voted on as a school committee, and so we should discuss and vote on the naming of Panther Malone. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I guess it's hard to separate the two, right? The placement of the statue and the name of the statue is hard to put that apart. Having it done the way that I did it certainly was not my A choice, and I never thought I'd be in that position, ever. You know, when Beth and I made that donation, it comes out a little over $15,000, and I had 3 kids in college at the same time. It was not an easy decision to make. And but we decided to do it because, as you can tell tonight, the whole fields thing was a cantankerous kind of effort, and there was a lot of damage done. You know, Beth and I can take whatever happens, but it was hard to watch what the kids had to go through, because what the kids see at home, they put forward in school. And my kids had to deal with that. When it comes to the installation of the statue, for 2 years, it could have gone anywhere. really. The Fields Committee could have talked to anybody and said, we want to put it here, we want to put it there, whatever they want to do. There would be nothing anybody can do about it. It would just happen, and it would be over. But it didn't happen. You know, it basically was something that was sitting in a closet in the back of the high school, and it wasn't going anywhere. And the administration couldn't do anything about it, because if they had an idea to go install it somewhere, they would be the recipient of exactly what you're seeing tonight, and you can't have them take the hit for that. You know, so I was really torn about this. I didn't have any problem with anything that happened through that whole field. I really didn't. This one, I really had a problem on what is the right thing to do. And like Beth said, I went around to all sorts of athletic complexes, high school, collegiate. You know, my son went to Auburn, so I'm down going to some SEC schools. And at the entry, you see the mascot. It's a big deal, you know? So I said, that should be the location on where it should go. And then I was convinced that if I did nothing, this statue was going to be next to the Ark of the Covenant somewhere in Arizona, right? It was going to be in a crate and never be used. So I decided to do what I did. I got a stone from the Living Stone Foundation in Leominster. I hired the best contractors I could find, Pinard Landscaping and Bob Peterson at Leominster Monument, and we did the installation. And how did it come out? I guess I'd have to refer you to the Facebook page for Pinard Landscaping, and you'll see 300 likes and 82 comments. Take a look at the before and after pictures and tell me what you see. And I understand totally that for some people, they're only going to see one thing. They're only going to see the process for the fields. That's all they're going to see, and they're going to see their side of it. There's nothing I can do about that. But most of the people there are only going to see a bronze panther on a stone at the entry to the athletic fields. That's all they're going to see. And in a year or two, if you ask most of the kids that go out there, it's just going to be like, who's Malone? It's the panther, is what it is. So that deals with the placement and where my thoughts were, but I was very uncomfortable with it. I really felt cornered, and I felt there was no way out for anybody in this. We were frozen in time. Was it the right thing? I don't even know now. I think based on the reactions of people seeing the statue, I'm okay with it. I'm still not totally comfortable with it, but I'm okay with it. When it came down to when it goes up, naming it Malone, really an homage. It says Panther Malone. It doesn't list superintendent from this date to this date. The people that are in here, that Danny was the chair, Joyce was the chair multiple times, Michelle Granger, Pat Kelly. The reason I did that was it's hard to understand where we are without knowing where we came from. And when we formed the district, right, both Air and Shirley schools were in serious trouble. The towns got together, really, if I had to give the credit goes to Mac Reed and George Frost, taking a look at the numbers and saying, you have to get a critical mass to have the programs that you need. And the only way that's going to happen is you two together. We initially floated a merger with Lunenburg, but that was never going to roll. So we ended up forming the district. We knew that we had to do something with the high school, and rightfully so, because we were doing so many things, we couldn't roll the athletic fields into the program to pass it, because we absolutely needed to make a new school here. So we ended up doing that. So what you have to think about that, during that entire time period, both the town of Air schools, town of Shirley schools, had interim superintendents. Nobody listens to interim superintendents. They keep the lid on because everybody knows the interim superintendent is interim. They're not going to be here, and whoever they hire is going to have their own way of doing stuff. It's very limited on what they can actually accomplish. We went to that, we formed the district, we hired the first superintendent, Carl Mock, which was a great choice. He had a lot of experience, and he had to find a way to put the two districts together. He was able to do that. He had to get the two teachers' unions together. And to the credit of the Air Teachers Union, I think the first year or 2 years, They had no salary growth. None, at all. The finances in those first couple of years were awful.
What is the relevance?
And we were able to find our way through it.
Hey, Jim. What I would love is if we could, I think you're getting here, but would love to talk about Mary Malone, just so that we,
I'll go
because
right
I, as much as possible, want
So
all of us to stay.
when Dr. Malone came in, what you had was a new district, newly formed, with a bunch of people, teachers, who did a great job because they did their job for a lot of years with no direction and no support. They had to figure it out for themselves. And she had to come in and take a look at putting together a complete package where we have to create a school district based on data. If we want performance, if we want to improve our scores, we have to know exactly what we're working on and we have to target those areas. And she began to do that. And the problem is, you have a lot of people who for a lot of years weren't doing that, right? And those people are not going to be totally open to it. She had to fight her way through. Every step of the way in all major areas. We had a huge special ed problem. We tried hiring a director. She got somebody who was retired to come in to help us out a little bit. And in the end, we had long discussions. We ended up hiring Tara Bozak, who didn't really have the credentials. When she started that job, didn't really have the credentials that you would think you would need to be the SPED director, but she had what Mary always looked for. What Mary looked for was somebody who cared and somebody who would give you 100% of what they could do. They would bring their experience and their education to make it as good as it could be. And she was able to do that through there and through the principalships of all the schools. Nobody left more in this area as Dr. Malone did. And you will see also on the, that's not the only Black Panther Malone, there's a little one before, underneath it that says, grace through effort. It doesn't say victory through effort. It doesn't say championships through effort. It's grace through effort. That's what we want for all the students, to find out who they are and give everything they've got. And that's all Dr. Malone ever asked for. And I feel that it certainly warrants the naming of Panther Malone.
Kevin?
Chris, we need to talk about a couple of things here. First off, we need to revisit the vote that was taken for the placement of this statue. And that vote was on November 1st, 2022. I have gone back and I've looked through the entire meeting and listened to when that vote was taken, and I welcome anybody else to go back and review that meeting. Because this vote was brought, it originally came up on October 22nd, and then as you recall, there was no vote taken at that time. It was referred back to the Fields Committee for a recommendation. Michelle Granger started the discussion on November 1st, 2022, and did report that the Fields Committee made a recommendation. One, that it was expressly not to go at the entrance of the fields, expressly. And two, the recommendation by Michelle was that it could go on the Rotary. There was further discussion by several members of the committee here. Erica and I were not in attendance. Everybody agreed. Mr. Quinty was asked if he would be okay with the location of the statue placed in the Rotary. And I don't have it written down here, but I will quote you Mr. Quinty's response. He said, "I have no interest in getting into controversy over the placement of the statue." End quote. It later went to a vote. Before that vote, Chris, you asked Mr. Quinty again if he would be okay with the placement of the statue on the Rotary. Mr. Quinty's response, and I quote, was, "That seems like a good accommodation, a good adjustment." He said, "I feel that is a good adjustment." The vote went forward. The vote passed to be on the Rotary. That was the vote taken.
Was that the vote taken?
That was the vote taken.
Or was
I'm
the
happy
vote-
to play it for everybody right now.
Okay, so, right now we're talking about the naming.
And so let me get to that. So we're going to have to get to the location of the statue because
Sure.
there was a vote taken, and part of that vote was it was expressly not permitted
So,
to
Kevin.
go at the entrance.
I haven't been able to watch any videos because I couldn't find them. I appreciate that you did. The vote that I was able to find from our minutes was on the acceptance of the gift, and again.
That was the vote for the acceptance of the gift.
And so I remember accepting the gift. My recollection was that it was then, we gave it to the school, and it was, again, with the recommendation that it could go at the Rotary.
Michelle has the recording.
And so, like, if we have the recording, we can watch it, and if the vote was on anything other than the acceptance of the gift, we should absolutely, like,
Michelle,
revisit
you
the
would
placement.
forward that video
We
to
should,
everyone?
and we should have that conversation at a time when everyone has had
Second
that
part
opportunity.
of the vote, however, regarding the naming of the gift.
Yeah.
There was never discussion of the statue, where it was placed, having any naming plaque,
Right.
having any name whatsoever. If you recall previously, the naming of anything that would be remotely close to the fields was absolutely forbidden, because every naming rights for those fields, some of which are here, were approved by the school committee, had made very substantial positive investments and contributions for the project, of which many people here have already stated Mr. Quinty did not have a positive input on the fields. In fact, he was the single biggest detriment to getting the fields passed. And so it was never approved to have the Quinty name on the statue. There was no naming that came up during that vote. And again, I do think we have people that have come here tonight, many of which worked extremely hard and tirelessly to get these fields passed, to overdo the harm that Mr. Quinty was doing. It's not about a personal vendetta. It's about the conduct that Mr. Quinty had around the fields. He, after the school committee vote in favor of this project, after the school committee vote, in violation of our ethics, Mr. Quinty was out in the public at many different forums, writing letters to the editor, and for the 3 votes in Shirley, 3 votes had massive, massive vote no displays. As a sitting school committee member, had massive vote no displays, including tractors, bales of hay, many different signs, misleading the public about the facts of this project. That is the conduct for which he was censured by this school committee, censured. So that is why there are so many people here today that have made such positive contributions to this fields. Those people deserve, when they walk into that field, they deserve the joy that this new facility brings to them. Multiple of them have contacted me, some of the biggest contributors to this project, and have said to me that is an absolute slap in the face that they would have to walk by this statue with the Quinty name on it. It cannot stand. There was never any naming on it, and the name must come down. The second thing that we need to talk about at some point is the conduct more recently of Mr. Quinty. An absolute abuse of authority. How does a statue, where Mr. Quinty knows very well it was expressly forbidden to be placed, you will quote policies that you wrote for us in the mid-90s, and yet you don't remember a meeting of which it was an express vote that the statue cannot go at the entrance and that it is approved to go on the Rotary, but you don't recall that? And so you don't consult any of the administration or bring any of the placement of this statue to anybody? Instead, you go over a weekend and you install it yourself? I don't know who you told that this was approved or anything, but in doing that is an extreme abuse of authority and a breach of our code of ethics.
Ashley.
Coming in a little bit on the outside of this, I wasn't here for the fields. I think my biggest concern and looking at these policies is that in my year and a half on school committee, I have heard nothing about this. So that's my concern, is that if we thought the statue needed to be placed, if it was in storage, whatever was happening, it should have come through an agenda at some point, and it didn't, obviously. So that's my kind of concern, is looking at these policies, what do we need to do to make sure that everyone is aware of this? Because obviously nothing has come up in the last 18 months.
Right.
So, and the naming, I think, specifically on that point, it needs to be the committee deciding, and I think our decision needs to come from the public, because we want our entire community to love it. You know, it's a beautiful statue, it's a kind donation, but the only way it's going to be appreciated is if we have a say in and naming it and all being a
Yeah.
part of it, so.
Other comments on the naming?
I'm going to go a little bit past that, and, sorry, but anyone in the public, anyone on the committee, we can go to where the chairman of the committee is, or through the secretary of the superintendent, you can request items on the agenda. Anyone.
Yep.
So if anyone had a problem that something wasn't moving forward, they could have put it on an agenda to be discussed, right? That's for anybody. Anybody in the towns, have students or don't have students, can ask for an agenda item to be put on and it's up to the chairman to decide if that's going to go forward, it's going to be delayed, it's going to be next month, we're going to put it here, here, and here, because it's not immediate, or because we just have such other things to do. So the fact that it wasn't brought up, and probably all of us are guilty of that, but that's what happens. It just didn't come to the top of the broth, So just to remind everybody, anytime they want something on the agenda to be discussed, submit it to the superintendent or submit it to the chairman of the school committee.
Erica?
My recommendation is going to be that the statue is renamed. And one, so that we follow proper procedure, and we follow it to the outline of the procedure. I can absolutely see where when you see the naming of something, anytime you name anything, you're memorializing something. I personally am not an advocate of naming people unless it's something extraordinary, astounding, something beyond measure. And the reason for that is the duality of man, naturally. No one is all good, no one is all bad. Everybody has perspectives. One of, I think, the things that may have gotten overlooked is not everybody feels the same way. And to receive the calls, comments, and questions that I did from people who are not at this meeting, who do not feel comfortable being at this meeting, because in their interpretation, by having the statue outside, seemingly with the school committee's approval, has set us back a lot when it comes to belonging. We put it in our mission, we put it in our vision, and anytime we operate outside the school committee's parameters, these are the things that can happen that negatively impact our students. Our first priority is to our students. And what has happened has now caused a detriment to the work that we as a district have put together. And I honestly have to say, I'm grieved by where I thought we were and where we are. And I can tell you from students who don't feel comfortable standing up at the podium or being present in this meeting, that they feel like they got slapped in the face and that they got suckered in by this district. I have gotten calls from teachers who said, we have asked them not to be here so that there could be, I love that we're all clapping and moving. I've gotten calls from teachers who have said, hey, I just want to let you know, I absolutely am for us moving forward in our mission and vision, but I felt it might be better if they hold their tongue and wait and see what the school committee says so that they're not targeted or made to feel other based upon the actions of the school committee. So there is an additional detriment done unknowingly, whatever it is that you want to say. So I'm focusing on the process here and just saying, I think we need to move forward with the proper process by identifying that, no, the school committee did not make a decision, as we all have said. So we're going to take a step back and we're going to make a correction so that we can move forward in the proper process. So that whatever name, if a name, goes on the statute, we do it and we follow the policy as is or based upon the discussion that we have.
Eric, I appreciate you saying that. Well, I appreciate everyone's comments, but Eric, I appreciate the comment you made. When we look at, I feel like I've said policy so many times. If I was giving a nickel, I would. But I think about the policies that we do have around memorials and the idea that you cannot name something for someone who has been deceased less than 3 years. I think similarly for those living, particularly staff members who are living, you have students and staff in the district who will see that name. 2 years ago, we named the library, 3 years ago, the media center. And the reality is there were students there, but they were collecting AARP cards, right? Like, they're not in that library. There aren't students in that library who had experienced that administrator as an administrator. And so I will just say explicitly, you were very generous. Unfortunately, Dr. Malone is like, I don't know that she's spending her Wednesday night watching. But she was an administrator here. There are still students who experienced her as an administrator. There are staff who experienced her as an administrator. And to your point, not all of those are positive. And it's unfortunate when you have, again, it's unfortunate to put her in a position where it feels like we are sort of like running her name through the mud or disparaging her because she did many great things for the district. She also had, impacted people in a less positive way. And so it's an unfair position to just talk about her that way. It feels unfair to bring it up. And I would just argue that I don't know that her name is one that we memorialize at this point, because I do think that there are students who are not going to feel safe, secure, valued, recognized with her name on that. That's not to say every student would feel that way. It's not to say every teacher would feel that way, but there are certainly some, and we need to be mindful as a committee to protect all of our students. And so personally, that is where I would fall on this, is like Mary did a lot for our district, and I personally would not feel comfortable with her name on a statute at this point. Any other discussion about naming? I would entertain a motion to either vote for or against the name that's proposed. Again, I know there are many things that folks on the committee and in the room would like us to talk about. They're not on the agenda today. We will get to them because, again, I've been trying to get to the bottom of the issue, and we will get to the bottom of the broader issue, but I want to start with the first piece that I feel really clear
I would
on.
make a motion that both of the names, the Panther Malone and the Quinty name that was never approved, both need to be removed within the next 30 days.
Seconded.
Any further questions, discussion?
Shouldn't we just look at it, I mean, I know we went to the naming, but as the whole thing? I mean, if it's going to be on the Rotary, which, and I thought I remembered that discussion, but not, Kevin found it. Good for you, Kevin, thank you. And looking at it as a whole thing, so that if it's moved on the Rotary, maybe the design of the pedestal is not appropriate for the Rotary, and should it be a whole thing, not piecemealed? Because that, now you still have it sitting where it is with, I don't know how you're going to remove that because I don't understand stone and stuff. But, should it be a whole thing? And should we take our revised policy and then apply it to that, including naming? There is naming stuff in that policy.
It's a great question. I think the reality is that, and again, I have not watched the video The only motion I could find in our approved minutes was that we voted to accept the gift. Kevin, I deeply, I've emailed, I've been trying.
You'll watch it yourself,
Yes,
so.
that's great. I would.
I'm not elaborating.
Because I think we have to have more than just some of the things in there, because the fleshing out of that policy should be accepting it, then approving placement design, full design of what it's all going to be. I just did this on another committee where we looked at the placement, the total placement, and the design, the size of what it was going to be, et cetera, as a whole package, not pieces here, now what are we going to do on this, and now what are we going to do on this. Writing the policy, then making that adhere to that policy might be a very direct, smoother way to go than
It would be
chopping
smoother,
up.
but I believe it will be a longer process. My hope is that we get to I have not looked at the statute close enough to know how easy it is to remove that plaque. And again, we should, but that was my desire to talk about naming.
Okay.
So then, do we have a motion about the naming and the names being removed, but I think we have a follow-up action where we do need to review having the statue moved and located either where it was approved to be or elsewhere.
Yeah. Any further questions or clarification on the motion on the table?
Seems like right now we just get to vote on the name.
Yep.
And then more information needs to be found out before you make any other decision.
That's right.
Right. So we should just vote on the name.
Yep. So that's the motion.
Right. Is Mr. Quinty going to recuse himself?
No.
Jim is both welcome to recuse himself. I don't know that he stands any financial benefit from voting on this. So Jim,
Conflict of interest is if there's any financial interest in anything before the school committee.
Financial interest?
You're paying for it. You have a financial interest.
The money's
That's up
gone.
to you.
The money's gone. I can't.
This isn't a conflict.
I can't, whether
It doesn't matter.
it gets ground up and recycled, it's still 15 large gone. So I don't have a financial interest in it any longer. A couple of years ago I did, but now I don't.
all right. So to the name, all those in favor of the removal of the Panther Malone plaque, that's where it says gift of, right? All those in favor, aye. Oh,
And the Quinty plaque.
is the Quinty plaque one and the same?
No.
No.
They're
There's
two separate?
No, they're
plaques.
separate.
Okay.
That would be entirely different discussion.
That'd be a different motion.
Yeah.
It's about the naming of the
Yeah.
solar.
Great. Let's have these be separate motions or discussions, because I do think that they are in fact two separate. One is an acknowledgement of a gift, one is a name, or I do think they are two separate items. I would love if we could have a motion on the Panther Malone name, if possible.
Okay. So do I just do a new motion?
Well,
No, he did a motion.
we did a motion, it was seconded, but
Seconded.
So you need an amendment.
I think I'd recommend an amendment to the motion.
Right. So I will make an amendment to the motion stating, crud, sorry guys. I'm struggling, I'm sorry. I'm trying to pull up parliamentary procedure, but.
I think if you make a motion to amend the motion to, sorry, we're not pros, we're doing our best.
Yeah. To recommend the removal of the name Panther Malone on the statue.
Yeah.
That's the motion that I am making.
That's what he made, right?
Yeah, but
I want both names.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, and so since they identified that they want to separate out the two issues.
I don't see that they're separate. I don't know if there's.
I think well, my stance would be, one is a name, like you are naming that statue, that is a substantive thing. The other is an acknowledgement of a gift. It's the same thing as the
statue is the acknowledgement of the gift. The naming of the statue says Panther Malone on it. The second plaque says specifically Beth and Jim Quinty. There's naming on that plaque.
Okay. I think those are two different people, and I would say you vote on them separately. And we can have a discussion about that, but I would...
Mr. Chairman, if Kevin would withdraw his, we would vote on his motion first. It's on the floor. It's been seconded. Okay. If that motion fails, then we can have another motion. Someone can make another motion just taking off the Malone part, and then that would be a separate thing.
Okay.
It's very difficult to add an amendment to that because you have a motion sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
If people disapprove that, then we could have another motion, or you could see what happened.
Thank you, Julie.
I appreciate it.
I was reading parliamentary procedure, but it was not.
Okay, I will amend mine, but my amendment, because again, let's reiterate, we have an individual who is very well aware that his gift in a statue only was approved to be on the Rotary. He was in attendance at that meeting. He participated in that meeting. That individual, a school committee member, then went around to this school district. I don't know who he spoke to, but obviously communicated to some of our custodians or facilities personnel that he was allowed and permitted to install a statue. And utter abuse of authority, utter, unacceptable abuse of authority. That individual cannot have their name on a statue in front of the fields that we've already talked about. I'm not going to rehash that. My motion is to remove the plaque that states the gift is from Beth and Jim Quinty.
And the other plaque too.
No, mine is simply, we're going to separate these out.
Separate them out?
So my motion is to remove the plaque that has the Beth and Jim Quinty name on it.
Point of order.
Sure.
Yeah. We're here to talk about the naming of the Panther Malone. If there is discussion and more information, a lot of things were said tonight that were factually incorrect. The people were not lying. People were not lying. I'm not saying that they're lying, but they were factually incorrect. And if they want to remove my name and Beth's name from that, then I think I should be allotted the time to explain. I don't want to totally rehash the Fields Committee thing, but that's where a lot of this comes from, where I can answer some of the things that were said here tonight. And I'd like to be given that opportunity before a decision is made. After that, in in 2 weeks, we have another meeting. You can put on there as a agenda item, removal of the plaque, the donation plaque on the Panther statue as a separate item. But I think I should be afforded the opportunity to answer some of the things that were said tonight, which were factually incorrect.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Wouldn't the opportunity to have done some of this before Mr. Quinty put a statue where it was not to go? He is the result of this motion.
Okay, so I wish we had a picture of the plaque, but I think from a point of order perspective, I think this is our moment to discuss the naming. And specifically, gosh, now I went back to the November 1st minutes. Let me get back to this agenda. I think this is the moment for us to name it. I will say that I think that, from my perspective, our existing, let's see what it says. Well, if we're going to discuss the Beth and Jim Quinty name on it, my perspective is the school committee accepted a gift. The gift was from Beth and Jim Quinty. And again, this is just discussing the naming of it. I think there are many gifts around our property that have the name of the organization or the individual who gave it. I just saw that there's a bench up at Page Hilltop from the Rotary. We're not having a vote about removing the Rotary, or like, should we keep the Rotary name? So my perspective is like, I would vote against removing the Quinty name from the statute because we've accepted the gift and that is who it's from. Like you've discussed, we should discuss the placement of such statue and how that happened. But again, if the group wants to have a vote on the Beth and Jim Quinty name on the statue, I would not vote in favor of removing that. That's just an opinion, that is not a vote or stance. So we can sort of move to vote, but
Okay.
go ahead.
Hearing the committee, would it be to, Kevin's motion is on the floor.
It is on the floor.
And it could call for a vote, and we can vote it down. Then someone else could make a new motion just to remove Malone from the name, and then we can work on placement and everything else at the time. But you have
I know we have I know, it hasn't been seconded, so
Unless
yeah.
Kevin would like to withdraw, and someone else can make another motion. So those are your two options.
Yeah. Or any other questions or comments about the motion?
I have a question, Joyce. Okay, so is it still viable to table the question until the next meeting when we can review the information so that it still remains without being withdrawn?
Then you can make a motion to table the motion and table discussion until the next meeting.
And then we could then make the next motion so that we could do the Panther one.
Mhm.
Split the baby.
Mhm. Tabling, it takes priority.
Right. And it is because I am starting to get thoroughly confused, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm trying my level best to follow parliamentary procedure, and I struggle with it.
I'll bring those cards next time.
Thank you. She already gave them to me and wrote all over them. Okay. In the interest of time and thoughtful intention, I'm going to make the recommendation that we table your motion until the next meeting so that we all can review the information that's been provided. We'll be able to review the video of the meeting and the other information that was brought forward, and then also to keep the momentum of our agenda. Do I just do the tabling first, Joyce?
You can do the tabling first, then we always could request Chris to put it on an agenda item.
Okay, so I'm going to request. Thank you.
I'm going to assume that request
Yes.
has been made.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to table Kevin's motion to the next meeting for the Beth and Quinty portion of the statute. Do we do all in favor, right? So we need, do I need
I'll
a
second
second?
that.
Okay. All right,
I don't
so-
think it has to be seconded.
All right.
Tabled and-
All those in favor of tabling the vote on Beth and Jim Quinty's name being removed from the statutes?
Aye.
No.
One no.
All right, so I will make a motion for the removal of the plaque that says Panther Malone on the Panther statue.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
All right. Well, we got one vote in. And, yep, I'm sure this will not be the last time we talk about Panther, well, not Panther,
It'll be on the next
the
agenda.
Panther. With that, we're going to move back to new business item 7B, which is the FY26 budget timeline.
Thank you. So it feels like budget season never ended, really, from last year. This is the exact same timeline as we had from last year. We are currently
now through
Adam,
December.
can I just ask you to pause? I'm guessing many folks don't want to stay for the budget timeline, so if we give folks a minute, then we won't. We can hear you.
It's pretty interesting.
I think this is the most compelling part of the meeting.
Expensive part of the meeting.
Perhaps we should have like a 5-minute recess or something, or maybe
I think we've
take a
got.
deep breath.
All right, sorry, Adam.
No problem. Currently, and through December, we'll be doing the budget needs assessments with all departments. On January 7th, we will have our first official discussion with the Regional School Committee on budgeting. On January 22nd, the preliminary fiscal year 26 budget presentation to the school committee will happen. Also on January 22nd, or hopefully on January 22nd, the governor should be required to file the general appropriations which is the fourth Wednesday of January. On a date to be determined later in February, the budget presentation to the Shirley Board of Selectmen and FinCom will happen at 6 o'clock. Also in February 2025, the budget presentation to the Air Board of Select People and FinCom will happen. February 12th, the final budget presentation to the public will be at 6:30. On March 4th, the Regional School Committee will certify the fiscal year 26 budget. The final approval date must be 45 days prior to the Air and Shirley Town meetings. On April 28th, we will present on the Air Annual Town Meeting at 7, and on May 12th, we will present at the Shirley Annual Town Meeting at 7. There are some dates that we may be adding to this. We are still working with Mr. Stephen Hemming from Mars to create a budget presentation for both the school committee, Board of Selectmen, FinComs, and parents. It's basically the 101 of regional budgeting. We hope to have that presented here at the high school in the auditorium sometime in December or early January.
All right.
Any questions on that timeline?
Questions or comments? Joyce?
Can we add to that some reports from various segments of the budget as to where we stand now on the current budget, or an understanding of how expenditures are going?
We could report on 25 during any school committee meeting that you want.
Yeah, I don't think we've had very much of that this year. And I think it's important that we know how we're moving along and where we stand at this point. And so I do respect the fact that we're not the professionals who are in the fighting. But so before we approve a new budget, I really feel at loss if we don't have some information as to what is going on right now. So for example, previously, and some of the high points that are of interest to the public particularly are things like what's happening with facilities and what facility needs are. What's happening with food service and how we're being impacted by the state, and is it working, is certainly something that I find of interest. And then if you can think of some other highlights that would be helpful, is everybody working out who we hired as counselors and how that's going and things like that. So having some basic information about where we are to understand where we need to go, I think is purview of this committee.
We could absolutely give an update about how we are using new positions. We can't give an update on how personnel are performing.
No.
Okay.
I didn't ask that.
Okay,
But,
I misunderstood.
Because these were these were just the highlights that affected, but I don't feel that we've had very much this year of like, here we are in expenditures, this is what it looks like, this is where we're going over, this is not where we're going on. So we know what to focus on when we get to the budget. Before we get to approving a new budget, if we don't have a full information on our current status. And, we used to do quite a bit of this. We can talk about athletics, we can talk about facilities is huge. There's now, this building was dedicated in 2015. So we're looking at a 10-year number on this building. And obviously, there's places that need to be repaired. Maybe we need a little bit more of that because it's only a 10-year-old building. Same thing with the middle school and things like that. I know people are talking about building new schools. I will tell you one of the things from the school committee conference I got is that the state's not doing much, and they're doing it poorly. So I don't think it's a time to jump into that. But, so just, I think we need some reviewing of where we are. And we don't have a budget subcommittee or a budget expenditure committee within our committee. So I think we need to do it as a whole, not having a subcommittee. Unless all of you guys want to be on the subcommittee. No.
No, I think we can, I think we absolutely should, and we have in the past. We've, I think, only had 4 meetings this year, but I think we are certainly due.
We haven't done anything that popped out to me, at least.
Yeah, no.
You know, the memory's not there. So
No, we haven't done it yet this year,
You could
but
tell
we
me I'm
should
wrong.
do, like, where are
That we should be
we?
doing that starting in September for sure, maybe even in our summer meeting.
So I can tell you that the dust has settled from the beginning of the year, and we are going to be bringing to you at the next meeting the budget transfers, where the money that we budgeted for contract increases will be moved to the salary lines, and that will further give us further information regarding how we're doing. Right now, we have some accounts that are under budget, or they have a reserve, so that's carrying us in some of our salary lines, but we need to do these transfers.
Yeah.
And that's the
And we
school
haven't-
committee vote.
Right, the
So
school
that
committee
needs to be
vote.
done, and
We
then.
haven't gone into, am I wrong? Did I miss that meeting? I don't feel we've done that this year.
So I know I missed a meeting, and it was a remote meeting, but we are getting to the place now where we have an accurate picture of where we are for this year. Our grants are just getting approved. The 240 grant, the big sped grant just got approved a couple of days ago. So we're moving some salaries into that. So these are the moves, the adjustments that we're making right now.
Is the next meeting too soon to do that?
I have the budget transfers ready to go for the December
We can do
3rd.
it for the next
Yes.
meeting?
Yep. Yes.
Thank you.
And so you want a standing of the food service, athletics, and facilities, and accounting?
Maybe that would be good.
At a kind of a capital list?
Then maybe a capital list, and we know that's like, oh my God, because we are going into various negotiations and stuff coming up, and so having a good feel as to where we are on everything would certainly help me, for sure. I don't know how everybody else feels. I'm down here at the end, so I
You're
can't
good.
look both ways.
Jim?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it needs to be on the tablet, but if we made any headway for a presentation on how budgets are formed that we would sit with the 2 finance boards and get somebody from DESI or someone in here to MASC to give our.
So that is the presentation that we are working with Mr. Hemmond from Mars.
Right.
On. So
Those are the February dates on here?
Those dates are not on here because it's not actually part of the budget timeline.
Got it.
Mr. Quinty had made this recommendation last year.
Yeah.
Right.
We've met with, I've met with Mr. Hemmond twice. I know there was supposed to be a phone call with Mr. Plunkett. A cruise got in the way of that.
Not
neither
me.
of us went on a cruise.
You better clarify.
No. But the part of that is to invite the FinCom and select boards to that, so they have an understanding of how the budget is.
Yeah.
So do we have a date
Monday
for
I
that
had
yet?
discussions with a couple Shirley selectmen and a FinCom board member, and they would appreciate that because, I mean, if you haven't seen it before, it's pretty daunting.
Well, there's a lot to it, and the regional agreement and individual regional agreements affect that. And there's certain things that, though they have to be voted on, because they're in the regional agreement, there really
Transfers.
isn't a choice in it,
Right.
even though it is voted. And some of those issues came up last year at one of the FinCom meetings when, as it's part of the regional agreement, there really isn't debate over parts of the budget.
Right. That and
So having someone who can better explain that, better than I just did, would really be worthwhile.
Yeah, that and the impact of being on, you know, as your property values and mean incomes increase, the effect of that on Chapter 78 and how that hey, we're doing great. Yeah, but there are things that go along with doing great.
Right.
That means you have to do more yourself. That's how that goes.
Erica.
Sure. So I just want to remind both FinComs of my suggestion last year, which is MASC has an open education on Chapter 70 and the laws associated with it, and even goes into detail centering around regional school committees, which will show where, just like Adam said, where there's really going to be kind of no debate, where there's no question. So what are the things, that you're looking at and you're assessing versus the things that are required, and then the implications regarding the state, taxes, levies. It gets all into that in the Chapter 70 MASC, MASC.org. Both FinComs can go there. They can sign up for the Chapter 70 session. There's a general session, and then there's a more in-depth session where it gets into maybe more detailed, almost like a more than an FAQ. But any person can sign up for those. When you go to MASC, you just simply put your email in, they'll give you a video, and then I think you even get a copy of the presentation slides after that. So I just want to remind everybody, I know, Adam, you're working on it, but I wanted to remind them just in case you want to sign up now, because they tend to do it around now pretty frequently.
Joyce, you had another.
No, that's okay. Well, just so, at the school committee conference, they had something that was referring to all this. You couldn't get into that session with a shoehorn.
Yeah.
It was so crowded. And so the suggestion is that they expand that a lot. Literally, the room was full. People were standing out in the hall. You couldn't hear, you couldn't see, whatever, And it was only one session.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I happened to be in that session. They didn't get into the budgeting.
They didn't.
As much as everyone in that room wished they would have.
That's what they promised.
Well, it was on data, and they
Good,
were
I
going
did something
to.
better than.
Yeah, they were going to talk about using data during budgeting, but unfortunately, the questions in the room led the presentation in another direction.
Happens.
But we can, and I don't know if we should do all of these updates in one meeting. We
Right.
probably break them up, but we can absolutely give an update about facilities, food service, sports. I think special education might be
Special
a good one to
education,
have.
Tara
That
has
is
it all.
a massive driver. Transportation might
Right.
be good, but we would probably break this up.
Yeah.
No,
So we don't
we
have
can't
to-
absorb it all at once. So,
Well,
I mean,
right, we try to
Not
keep it
this
under
way.
6 hours.
6 hours later.
Keep the meeting under 6 hours, I think.
I have to be at work tomorrow at 8:30.
We'll be done by 8:30 tomorrow
We
morning,
will.
Joyce. All right, any other comments or questions for Adam about the budget timeline? We will certainly work to bring updates on the budget for the next several meetings, because Adam, to your point, I don't think we'll do it all in one fell swoop. All right. With that, we've got some grants to approve.
We do. Many of these are entitlement grants, and there are actually many competitive grants on here. I'm going to run through them. If you have a question, please let me know. I'll pause so that we can answer those questions. Charlie, Bill, and I will jump in depending on who has the most knowledge to answer that. But we are asking for the school committee to approve our fiscal year 25 Title I budget, our Title IIA, our Title III, our Title IV, our IDEA, our ECSC 262. Those are all entitlement grants. Are there any questions on the entitlement grants? And I will go into more information on any of those if you wish, but certainly for the competitive grants that we don't see any year.
Title I 305, that is, can you remind me how that is awarded? How does the federal government get to the 261?
They determine that is based on the number of students that we have in our low income guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the entitlement grants?
If you remember this, we talked a lot
About-
the one last year and how it's been shrinking. And this is, I believe it's $50,000 less than it was last
Right.
year.
And I think this is where we, again, for all the families watching, like, we've been trying to get folks to submit paperwork to try to boost these up because we don't think that we're getting all of our fair share for this potentially.
We have received some. We do now have a process out of the superintendent's office for us to review and submit these to the state. But it is a bit of a long shot. Out of the state received, I think, 3,000 applications last year, and out of that, under 100 were approved.
Yeah.
But we're asking the schools to look at who we have direct certified and to personally reach out and ask families to fill this out who they think may qualify. Our schools often have some knowledge of families that are in crisis and they're struggling. We're also, if anybody is asking for financial assistance or a scholarship for a field trip or any other type of scholarship for something that usually has a fee, we're asking that they fill out the paperwork for this so that we can submit that and try to get that allocated.
All right.
So I'll move on to the competitive grants, which there are numerous. They're actually, we will be doing this probably 2 or 3 times this year with the competitive grants. And we did receive a grant from the Department of Health, a behavioral health grant, a 2-year grant to support mental health needs of students in ASRSD, and that's for $35,220. We received a grant for the life sciences, MLSC, it's a STEM grant. These are for Project Lead the Way. I'll actually let Mr. Cleary talk a little bit more about that. He knows much more about Project Lead the Way than I do.
Yeah, we've been working to increase the access to Project Lead the Way engineering programs, and so you'll see 2. I think you approved actually one of these last year. We received 1 competitive grant from the 1-8 Foundation to implement Project Lead the Way at both Laura White and Paige Hilltop last year. And at the same time, we had applied for a continuation of the Mass Life Sciences grant because we had used that in the middle school to add some Project Lead the Way engineering courses in the middle school. This is for the high school, specifically for updating some of the equipment to be more aligned with Project Lead the Way through the Intro to Engineering Design and the Principles of Engineering course pathways for the high school. So it's a pretty significant grant, $85,000 for equipment. All of those materials will all be purchased this year for implementation into next year. So when we get to the program of studies, you will see some updates in the program of studies wording to reflect the Project Lead the Way courses in the program of study for these 2 particular classes.
Thank you. We did receive a grant recently for $8,200 from MIA. That is the organization that negotiates our insurance rates, and that was used this year. You'll probably remember this from last year. We also used it last year. I believe it was the same amount to purchase radios for district staff. We are finding as we are receiving students with more need, it is much more of a need of our staff members to have radios to be able to call the front office and ask for additional assistance. So that was fantastic. We were able to provide more radios to each building. We did receive a Safe and Supportive Schools grant for $10,000. This was used to help fund our work with the Equity Imperative. We did receive a grant for $10,600 from the 1-8 Foundation. This went to the middle school staff and a leadership initiative and training. This was the grant that funded the trip to Philadelphia, correct?
Yeah.
So we just had the building principal and some staff from the middle school. They were able to go with the 1-8 Foundation out to Philadelphia to visit some schools and to see some practices that we will want to bring back and implement in our middle school. Mr. Clay, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, the nature of applied, we have a really good relationship with the 1-8 Foundation. They've seen us as a opportunist type of school district, and so what we've learned is a lot of the things that they offer are really quite good. They support a lot of programming around Project Lead the Way as one of the pieces, but they also have This Applied Learning Institute, they have some math pieces, they have investigating history, they have a number of different curricular offerings and experiential learning offerings. So this one, Principal Ulrich sought out ultimately because he wanted to find ways to implement applied learning more efficiently and effectively in the middle school. Applied learning is essentially a version of project-based learning you may have heard about before. And this is an opportunity to kind of build a team within the middle school, go and observe what this looks like in some other schools, and then discuss, debrief, figure out implementation for a plan of how to make more opportunities for applied learning for kids in the middle grades.
It's rare that our teachers and our principals and building-based administration is able to get out of their bubble and see things happening differently in another place, and in actually a very different school. I mean, Philadelphia schools are very different than Air Shirley, so it was a great opportunity. We're very happy that they could do it, and I haven't talked to the teachers yet, I'm sure you have, but I did talk to Mr. Ulrich, and just the energy that he's expressing from after that visit and seeing some of the things, it's completely worth it. If we can get grants like this and support other teachers and administrators to do that, we're going to do it. Mr. Clare, I'm going to ask you to just continue with the next grant for the math PD.
Yes, we've been applying for, you recall you all approved, well, some of you were on the committee when we approved the adoption of Eureka Math. And we've been supporting professional development and coaching to support implementation of math curriculum for the past 3 years at this point. And part of the work that we are working with the coaching with Allison Mello Math Consulting to kind of help support the implementation, we applied for another grant. And I'm actually meeting with an organization tomorrow that's going to monitor our grant implementation process. So this was for another $52,000 grant to support professional development and coaching for grades K through 8.
And the teachers are raving about the consultant, the trainer that Charlie has found and brought in. And that's not always the case. It's really unanimous, the positive feelings. We did receive a grant from the Department of Justice for School Violence Prevention program for $215,871. This will have an impact on every school in the district. This is going to provide key fob doors, card access doors to the 2 elementary schools. It's either going to repair or replace the key access doors at the middle school. It is going to provide surveillance, additional and some upgrade surveillance cameras or repairs to the high school. It is going to, actually it's going to provide surveillance cameras to all of the schools. It's also going to provide outdoor lighting to both elementary schools. Middle school might be on there too. I don't believe the high school is on there for outdoor lighting. And it does have funding for bollards. Bollards are the concrete barriers that keep cars from kind of driving through a main entrance. Anything I'm missing in that? I think that's pretty much all of it. So these are all things that we've wanted to do that we could not do if we didn't get this grant. This was the second year in a row we applied for the grant. We did not receive it last year. To Mr. Mooney, our grant writer's credit, he got back the feedback, we adjusted the grant, we resubmitted, and we were awarded this year. I'm very excited about this grant. This will, having cameras and key access doors in all of the buildings is going to be a massive upgrade. Now, we did move forward with some keyless entry doors at the elementary schools this year because we had to stop the propping of doors. But it's a code, and we have to change that code often, and people are going to forget that code. So this is the key access. It's like a hotel room key. Is much better. If somebody leaves, has a key, doesn't return the key, we can just turn the key off. We don't have to change everybody's code. If we have people who use the key for coaching, we can actually issue a card key and then just turn it off when the season is over. It's huge benefits to this. And the cameras, we don't currently have cameras at the elementary school. There's one on one entrance at Laura White that we installed this summer. But besides that, the elementary schools do not have surveillance cameras. And the cameras at the high school need an upgrade. The servers, we believe, need to be replaced, and that's at a cost of roughly $15,000 per server. So, and there's 3, I believe, that need to be replaced. So this is a huge help, and is going to make quite a big difference. The other part of this is we do have to perform a safety audit in each building. It's part of the grant, and it does pay for it. So we are currently looking for vendors who do that. And as you can imagine, there's no shortage of vendors who want to come in and do this work. So finding reputable vendors for this is going to take up some of our time in the next month or so.
Eric?
I just have a question. So my question was going to be, would you mind if I was a part of the safety audits? I actually just did the same thing for our facilities, including our adolescent unit. And we do have key access. Mental health facilities are, locked units, so we have the key access. We also have the security cameras. I did a lot of things. Now, again, my perspective would be different, but given that I just went through this, it would be wonderful to see it from the perspective, of a school district. And also, some of the more interesting things as we look at mental health, sometimes strategic placement of cameras can save a life. So that's my ask, if possible.
Absolutely. So we don't know exactly how that's going to run. There are tools that we can use to do this internally. There are vendors who want to do that. We'll make you part of the process. Not a problem. And anyone else who is interested would be happy to do that too. The other thing that this grant provides is money for training. So we are currently using Run, Hide, Fight, but we are looking to change to I Love You Guys. It is a, this came out of a recommendation from AirPD. They had gone to some reunification training. It was really well done. We had actually sent a staff member there last year to get trained for that. Unfortunately, that staff member no longer works in district, so we have to be retrained. But what we're looking to do is bring them in and do a regional training. So there's actually, the cost is minimal because it's a nonprofit, but there is some cost associated with hosting and training. This grant will pay for it, and we can actually not only do this for our district, but we can invite surrounding districts to that as well. It's very similar, but it brings all of the things that we're doing kind of under one umbrella. I'd be happy to share the website with you of I Love You Guys. It looks like you might be interested. But we looked into it, and we're currently updating our safety manual, and we are using the NEMLEC STARS manual, and the regional school committee will be voting on this, but we are currently updating it to the I Love You Guys language. It's very similar to the Run, Hide, Fight, with some subtle differences. So I'm guessing you are interested in the website. We'll send that.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
I think you're.
I've never heard of it.
That's the website. I Love You Guys.
ILoveYouGuys.org.
Thank you. I wasn't sure whether it was .org or .com. We have also received some United Way grants for our extended day programs, one at Laura White for $20,978 and one at Page Hilltop for $28,478. These funds are for the extended day programs at each of the elementary schools. And we did receive a newcomer homeless support grant for $12,500. And this is specifically used for the needs of newcomer or homeless students. So I would have to say a thank you to Mr. Jay Mooney, our grants writer. He is writing and submitting grants very selectively. We're not going after anything that's going to change our mission and vision, but if we can fit it in and have it work for us, we are going after it as a budget supplement. And I think it's safe to say that addition of his salary is really paying off. Over $1 million in grants since he started.
So the differential between Page Hilltop there and LAW is because of the number of students?
Size of the school.
Yeah, that's
and number of kids in the program.
Yeah, so it's based on attendance,
There's
basically.
enrollment in the
Enrollment,
extended day.
thank you. Wrong word.
LAW doesn't have a turn in the summer either.
Oh, okay. Good point.
So we are asking you to vote to accept all of these grants.
Joyce?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the grants that were listed tonight, including the Title IIIs and the other ones that are too numerous to think, but they're in the minutes.
Second?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Apologies if
Isn't there
there's
something
other
about never
questions.
turning down money, or
No.
or don't look a gift horse in the mouth?
I don't think we're looking a gift horse in the mouth.
No.
Oh, Michelle. Erica.
Thank you.
All right. I think we are now moving on to the superintendent's report. I've done my math right?
Thank you. Mr. Clear is going to start.
Just a quick teaching and learning update. So last week we had our 8th annual cross-district Lash Learns PD Day. That was on November 5th. So as a reminder, we do this every year for the past 8 years. Educators from Littleton, Harvard, and Air Shirley, thus the name Lash, Littleton, Air Shirley, Harvard, come together and participate in a day of learning in one of the school districts. This year we hosted. The theme for this year was Educating for a Better Future for All. In response to feedback that we received last year, because we provide surveys each time we have this conference or workshop day, we changed the model slightly to offer more sessions, each of them an hour in duration, instead of the traditional keynote presentation that we've used in the past. Preliminary feedback, we haven't analyzed all of it yet, has been very positive. ASRSD was well represented in workshops this year, offering of the 51 workshops, we offered 23 of them. In total, we had 25 teachers present at least one workshop, including 18 first-time presenters, which is kind of cool. The workshops addressed a wide range of topics to engage all learners. Special thanks to our presenters, certainly, for being brave. And to our high school staff for offering over their classrooms for the day, because it's never fun to host, give up your classroom and let other people kind of take over. And to our custodial staff for all the setup that they had, transforming our high school cafeteria into a space that normally serves only 200 people for lunch. We had to serve 400 people a turkey dinner in approximately 20 minutes that day. So a lot of furniture moving and setting up that happened that day. So it was all in all, a very cool experience to host. That was the first time that we've hosted since 2016 or 17, since 2017. Largely because COVID interrupted our hosting, and last year we were supposed to host, but the gymnasium wasn't available, so we skipped over to Harvard for the year and then came back, took it this year. So, very good experience. I'll take any questions that people have, if they have any.
I just have a comment.
Go for it, Erica.
I think the fact that we had 18 people be willing to step out of their comfort zone and lead workshops is huge. And I also think that that's reflective of the intentional PD that's gone in to the programming in the last few years. Because to be able to step outside of that, you not necessarily believe that you're an expert, but you feel comfortable enough to provide the information that you have, be willing to share it and be passionate or excited about what you're sharing. So I applaud every single person that did it, but especially to have such a large number of people be willing to host that workshop and then put themselves on the line, because there's going to be feedback either way, right? I think that's huge.
Yeah, the feedback has been awesome, frankly. I took the comments on the individual workshops and I shared it with all the presenters, so that they had copies of it. And I think I sent it to them, I don't remember when that was. What's today? It may have done it last Friday or Tuesday, I don't remember. And they all kind of got back to me, was like, this is awesome. Thanks for filling my bucket or making my day or whatever, because the feedback from people was profoundly positive about individual presentations. And some people really had to be, we talk about kind of like developing leadership capacity in folks, and this is one of those ways to do that, is to kind of highlight the successes that teachers are having in the classroom and with their peers, work with their principals, and kind of like praise, support, and then encourage. And I remember even literally having the conversation with one person in my office who was saying, I don't want to do this. And I was like, you are a rock star. And like, you make kids like push themselves out of their comfort zone every day. And that's how they grow. Like, I'm just trying to do the same thing for you. And that hooked this person. And she was like, all right, I'm in. And I was like, okay.
That's really
great.
bad to tell someone. That
So-
was really evil. You don't like.
No, it's whatever. We got to tap into people. Like, we have to
Right,
encourage
right.
them. Like, we see it. We see it in folks. And like building that capacity and making them realize it for themselves, building their own efficacy, is not an easy thing to do. And presenting in front of your peers is a hard thing. And people take it really, really, really seriously.
Oh, it's great.
So it's awesome. It was awesome.
Teaching the teacher.
It's great to see. We've talked about wanting to use internal expertise, and it feels like we've had people present lash lines in the past, but I feel like it's catching hold now, and that Charlie gets a ton of credit for that. I think ASRIA gets a ton of credit for that too, because we at least I think we have a very positive relationship with the union, and we more talk about how to do things than not do things. And I think the other example of that, and I don't know I mentioned this, but we have two principals right now who are splitting filling in for the high school assistant principal who is out for a bit, and that's also going great. So it's great to have that internal expertise and the and now word retrieval. It's out the door now, but plan from last year. Succession
Right.
planning. Thank you so much. It's great to see it. And the other thing I want to say before I move on to the other part of the superintendent's report is Charlie organized this with other superintendents, assistant superintendents from the other districts, but this was his. He owned it, the entire thing, and he did a great job. So I can't give him enough credit for how smoothly everything went. The food was great, the presentations were great, the organization was great, so we really appreciate the hard work that he did. I don't think it could have went any better, so thank you.
Sounds like maybe some great recruitment.
Absolutely. We work on that.
Good job. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, an update on the cell phone policy. We were able to meet, any other questions on that? Can I move on?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
We were able to meet with Gardner Public Schools on Tuesday? Tuesday. We had a virtual meeting with the superintendent and the high school principal so that they could tell us what they are currently doing and then answer some of our questions or concerns about implementation. Really what they're doing is they're collecting phones at the beginning of every class. They're going into a pouch that it's almost, think of a shoe rack that hangs on the back of a door with the pouches. The pouches are numbered. Each number corresponds to a number on a student roster. Kids put it in at the beginning. Teachers check it. So if they look and they see, oh, pouch 13 is empty, that's usually full. They ask the student. Student says, oh, I forgot to put it in. They put it in. If they say, oh, I don't have it today, they make a call to the administration. Phone call is made home to confirm that. So at the beginning of the year, they are making those phone calls often. They are making less of those phone calls as time goes on. There's a master list of students who don't have phones ever, so you're not constantly pestering a kid who doesn't have a phone while their phone isn't in. Students are allowed in Gardner, and please, anyone who is there, please jump in if I'm missing anything, are allowed to use their phones in passing and at lunch, and if they would allow if there is a reason that the teacher wanted to use a phone for an educational purpose, but it really hasn't come up for them. However, I have had teachers reach out to me who do use cell phones for educational purposes within districts, such as we have an app creator class. So you're going to have to use a phone to create an app. So to me, the talking to them and being to ask those questions really is going to allow us to tailor our policy or draft policy without hitting some of the bumps that they missed. But even with some of the bumps that they had, and there really weren't many, they reported to us a 70% reduction in office referrals, and the nonsense of having to deal with social media or online issues nearly disappeared. Is that a fair representation of what they said? So one of the things that I'm going to ask tonight is that if there are any, if anyone on the school committee would be willing to be part of a working group with one meeting being next week where we can come up with a draft policy, a draft implementation plan, and a draft parent communication. I do have 3 jumping off points already prepared. However, they're just drafts and jumping off points. Any of those can be changed. We would ask a staff member from the middle, at least one staff member from the middle and high school to join us on that, but not the elementary. We talked to the elementary principal. I talked to the elementary school principals. Our current policy now seems to be working very well. Stays in the bag. If it comes out of the bag and we see it, we take it. The first time we give it back to you at the end of the day. The second time, the parent has to come in and pick up the phone. It seems to be working. We've only had to do that once this year.
When do you want to have that meeting?
Well, we could, I'm open to suggestions that would work for any member of the school community, but it would be, because we are going to ask teachers to be on it, it would have to be after school. Yeah, so sometime, because it's the middle and high school, sometime after quarter of 3.
I'd be interested in.
Yeah, I would.
Fantastic.
Also a question, so I heard not elementary schools, but the middle school would be included in the policy?
We would be looking, we would decide that part of that would be the working group, but I think the jumping off point that I have would be, it would really affect 6 through 8. That's where we see the issues with cell phones, is through the middle and high school. Yeah. We surveyed the staff and we surveyed parents. I can share a little bit of the staff survey. Overwhelmingly, 80% of the staff feels like it's an issue. Cell phones are an issue. And then there is a split whether or not they should be able to have them during some passing time and lunch, or whether they should have them at all. Logistically, it's very difficult to take them at the beginning of the day and keep them for the day without buying these Yonder pouches where the kids put the pouch in and they carry the pouch. The Yonder pouch, very easy to beat. All you need, I mean, you know, you hate to say it, but the kids are going to Google this and have the answer in 2 seconds. You just need a magnet, right? And you can't keep them locked up in the same room for the day, because at the end of the day, kids trying to get the buses, we're going to have kids going all over the building in a very unorganized and possibly unsafe way when they want that phone back. It seems that the schools that are taking them at the beginning of the class and allowing them in passing at lunch are having the same positive results as the schools that are taking them for the entire day.
Do you know which day you want to do this?
I don't, because we would be making that based on what our school committee members are available to join us. So Michelle would
usually
reaching
does
out.
such a good job coordinating. If
Yeah.
there are a few days at work, we could all give our availability.
So 2:45, 3 o'clock to allow people to be there?
I think 2:45 will work for our middle school and high school teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
So Michelle will reach out to, I know, okay.
I could, there's only one day I can.
I would be happy to, but I'm happy to also sit back if Joyce can make it work with their schedule. I know we want to have 3, not 4, so.
We're probably not voting, it's just a discussion, so you could actually have, it's not going to come to a vote. The
But then
vote
we would
be
need
in
to
public
post.
hearing.
No, we would need to have a first read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
and
so
we're hoping,
anybody who
we're
wants to
hoping we
get
can
the
do
2
that at the
cents
next
in
meeting.
could come.
If you want to email and we'll see what works.
Email 4 of you,
And
then you
we'll
decide
arm wrestle.
Yeah, it might not work depending on the day too, so that's good to have. One thing I just wanted to add to what you were saying, Dr. Brenda, is I know the Gardner School, they mentioned how the students who weren't really following in the pouch, she got a couple of those lock boxes, and that was like the, you know what I mean, the backup solution. So I think that was a really good answer to, yes, this is the most affordable, practical way to implement it as soon as possible, and there's backup for those students who can't follow that process.
Yeah, and that actually is in the draft jumping off point policy. Again, it's just a jumping off point for us. I don't want you to think I'm drafting this policy. But part of it is if you can't put the phone in the pouch on a regular, if this is a constant issue, then we will lock it for the day. And eventually, you won't be allowed to have it in school if this is the policy or something like that that the school committee ends up adopting. But that was an excellent point. And those lock boxes aren't expensive. They're $40 for 30.
Yeah, and if you don't
buy a
need
few of those.
that many, hopefully.
The pouches to purchase the pouches that we would need for the middle and elementary, the middle and high school would roughly cost about $2,000 for every room. The Yonder pouches would be $13,000 to $15,000. And there's mixed reviews on the Yonder pouches. So, you know, we'll talk about that in more detail during the working group. But it might be beneficial to start this way, and then if it doesn't work, and we need something more restrictive to move that way in the future.
Was there any luck with having that presentation? I know you've been speaking with someone about doing a presentation on the effects of cell phone use, or?
No, I think, so it's, we didn't really end up agreeing with what the focus should be on. Yeah.
I know that presentation, I believe I sent it to you. It was more about kind of cyberbullying, but I think it would have a really strong impact on some of the parents. If
Now, I haven't reached out so that's not who I had spoken to.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying, if you're looking for something new, I think that might be.
I thank you for reminding me of that, because that slipped my mind. That was,
I think it's Do It For James, or Do.
You
I'm gonna forget. I'll
I
find
had
the
it.
email.
No, you emailed it to me, so I still have that. Yeah.
Okay.
I hadn't thought of that. Thank you for bringing that up. Because I would like to have a presentation for parents.
I think it would help for those parents that are not going to be happy.
I agree. The parent survey was interesting. So we received a lot of responses quickly, around almost 200. We sent out some reminders. And I had to, so you have to sometimes turn off the one response per family because people are logging on without a Google account. So I did that because, you know, I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to fill it out. But it's very obvious that some students got the link. And the reason I know that students got the link is because there was submission at 7:01, and then 7:02, and 7:03, and 7:04, and 7:05. And this was after we had sent it out. So if that happened immediately after we sent that out, I would understand, but this was a random night. And then it was 11:05, 11:06, 11:07, 11:08. So I'm trying how to figure out how to validate that data. I think I might use the original 183. That seemed to be pretty honest.
A reasonable sample.
But it's still...
If you got responses from my family, I should vet those. My daughter got them.
We didn't collect, we wanted it to remain anonymous, but I think what we have to do with these surveys is require at least if we're not going to collect your email address automatically, which you can do, but that requires to be signed into a Google account, we're going to have to ask for maybe a student's name, because then at least we could verify. We only have 1,780 students, right? So if there's more than one response from a student, we can validate it that way. So, you know, great job on the kids' part for trying to game the system, but we can tell when you do that for all the students watching at home right now.
Adam, sorry.
Yes.
The other thing that I think you can do in the Google Forms is when it's doing the report, you can turn on a function where it'll auto-report the email address that it came from, regardless of whether it's Google or not. So we use that for our patient satisfaction surveys. And so we'll look, and if we see, you know, the email address is assigned to either an adult or an adolescent or adolescent's parents, then we'll count it, you know, towards our survey results. So I'm pretty sure if I can find it, I'll forward it over to you. So then that way you can just turn it on or turn it off and you're good to go in that way.
I'd love to see that. So I know how to do that, but if there's another option that will allow it without being assigned into Google.
It has to be anonymous too. So is that taking away the...
Yeah.
You can't. Then you just would have to be careful how you're communicating if this is anonymous or not.
Right.
Well, the other thing we may have to do is bite the bullet and pay for a subscription to SurveyMonkey, where they can eliminate multiple responses using IP address. We can't do that.
Do we have any Microsoft products at all at the school district? Because if you do have a Microsoft product, then in Microsoft Forms, which is what we switched to full time, you can do that. You can create forms and it'll auto-populate into the Excel spreadsheet. And you can control it. So that's how I built out all of our incident reporting, all of our patient satisfaction surveys, everything. you can auto-populate it there, and you can even import forms that you already have, and then that way you're only just reformatting instead of having to recreate the wheel.
We do have some Microsoft products. Well, Mike might be the person to talk to about that. Yeah, I didn't even know Microsoft had a forms. Interesting. We'll look into it. Thank you.
As a part of the working group, are they reviewing any academic or psychological studies on cell phone access in schools? I mean, there's a lot of that going on now. You know, and part of this is like we want to do something that helps teachers in the classroom, but we also want to do something that helps kids grow emotionally and create personal interaction. And that may not be totally in line with what some people might want to do, but sometimes we have to take unpopular positions based on the academic research at the time. So will that be a part of something you'll be discussing?
I think that's something we could absolutely talk about in a working group. And that's really why we're calling it a working group, because part of that this group's task would be to have the discussion of what should be part of this work. Okay, I'm going to give you an enrollment update. Enrollment is up. We currently have 366 kids at LAW, 550 students at Page Hilltop, 411 students at the middle school, and 416 students at the high school. We have 27 choice students at Law, 15 choice students at Page Hilltop, 20 choice students at the middle school, and 28 choice students at the high school. That's 90 total.
Wow.
And we have a total of 1,780 students. I believe 3 years ago we were just at 1,600. So that is a lot of growth in 3 years. Any questions on any of the enrollment? Okay, thank you. I got a sports update for you, and I just apologize in advance that I am not Mr. Kendall. Congratulations to both the varsity soccer team on both varsity soccer teams on reaching the round of 16 of the state tournament. Both teams have grown by leaps and bounds this year. They're a real credit to coaches Mark Justo, Bill Naylor. The JV teams also had great seasons, and thank you to coaches Michelle Scally, Buffy Pizzanola, and Sam Elsmari. Middle school soccer had great seasons and were able to play the final 2 games here at Harold G. Norton Athletic Complex. Coaches Brian Dusk and Liam Hatch have done phenomenal jobs with the teams. Congratulations to Jake Leone, Cole New, Ada Perawak, Carolyn Mason on qualifying on the state cross-country championships, which will be held at Devon's on Saturday. The girls run at 2 and the boys at 2:45. Football has 2 remaining games, Saturday at 12 at Lunenburg and Thanksgiving morning at home versus Littleton at 10 a.m. Volleyball reached the postseason for the first time in 6 years. Congratulations to the Panthers. Cheerleading is wrapping up for the fall season and gearing up for the winter competitions. Ethan Chisholm, Ian Larkin, Yanni Keys, on qualifying for esports playoffs. Ethan qualified for Super Smash Brothers, while Ian and Yanni qualified for Fortnite Box Fight. Winter sports registrations is underway. Welcome to our new coaches this winter. Aranita Edwin as varsity girls basketball coach. Brian Siplicki, the JV girls basketball coach, and Paige Newsham as the middle school girls basketball coach. I think we're missing one there. We'll get that in the following update. College acceptances submitted to Mrs. Heather Shroka, Administrative Assistant to the Air Shirley High School School Counseling Department as of November 12, 2024. And they are Assumption University, Central Michigan University, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, Prescott, Keene State College, Liberty University, Loyola Chicago University, Suffolk University, State University of New York at Buffalo, State University of New York at Fredonia, University of Hartford, University of New Haven, Western Michigan University, and Worcester State University. All the seniors out there that are listening, please get those in so we could recognize the school. I know no one is listening. And that is all for the superintendent's report.
Rah, rah, UMass Amherst. No.
It will be. UMass Amherst will absolutely make the list.
All right.
The update to the cell phone policy was done in the superintendent.
That was going to be my question, if there's anything additional on the cell phone policy. All right, with that, let's move on to the ASRIA contract negotiations.
So we were scheduled to have a meeting on Tuesday to talk about ground rules. That has been rescheduled to tomorrow. But what we are asking the school committee tonight is to have some of the members join us in the contract negotiations. We are able to have up to 3.
Great. I would like to, Kevin. Are there others who would like to?
I can try.
Wait, we've got 3 right now.
I have a
And
lot
so
of
if you-
pressure on work.
So Joyce, if you have a lot of pressure, we have 3 folks who raise their hand, maybe we let you sit one out.
I could be an alternate.
You can be an alternate if
it comes up.
If I may, I don't know that this will make it into these ground rules. I'm guessing it probably will. We did add the ability to have alternates if a member can't join on both sides.
Great.
That can be hard because they don't have the strain that's going on, but I think it's bad to be short people.
Sure. Okay.
Who's going to do it?
Kevin, Erica, and I.
Good luck.
I'll be an alternate if you guys need me.
Okay.
You can call in any of us.
Yeah.
We can always
Feel free to.
we can add executive sessions to these meetings and discuss them after each meeting if we like.
Executive sessions and discuss each
Yeah.
after every negotiation.
Absolutely.
Of course we will.
Yeah. Can add them in between meetings too, Joyce. Strategy.
Oh, that'd be fun. 7 o'clock, sounds
Yep.
good to me.
All right. Adam, anything else for contract negotiations?
That is all this time.
All right. We're going to continue moving. We're getting to the tail end. Wanted to have the end of cycle summative evaluation for our superintendent. I think we've added the sort of prequel before each of these, that this is probably one of the most awkward things that happens in any profession anywhere, that your end of year review happens, it is recorded, it is made part of the public record, and anyone who wants to attend can attend.
I agree.
So thank you for your willingness to sit there through this. I think overall as a school committee, as I was compiling the notes from others, the school committee continues to be really optimistic and grateful for your contributions to the district and the direction we're going. Starting quickly with the 3 professional goals, implementing and monitoring the district plan, we saw significant progress establishing a leadership development program. Felt that that had clearly been met. And then with enhancing communication with the district, saw progress there as well. Across the 4 standards of instructional leadership, management operations, family and community engagement, as well as professional culture, felt that each of those were proficient. I will note, I'll add a few notes, and again, others, please jump in. In terms of the goals, I mentioned communication. That's obviously been a theme that we've brought to this committee a number of times, and continue to think about how are we as a district, how are you as a leader of the district engaging with and communicating in a way that is clear, consistent, equitable. I know that it's a focus of you to think about how we're leveraging translation protocols, a communication portal, as well as just some of the little things about how do we get sort of more engagement from the community. But again, there's progress there, and we're really excited about things. Coffee with the cabinet, for example, right? Like there's lots of things happening there. In terms of these rubrics are really delightful to go through. In terms of each of the, they're called focus indicators. No. Yeah, focus indicators. For each of the focus indicators, found that you were proficient on all. 2 exceptions there within communication. That was one that was named as a focus. And then with continuous learning, that was named as exemplary. I mean, I think it was just evidence earlier, even thinking about the lash learning. Like, I think we see continually that teachers in this district, paras in this district, volunteers in this district are a focus for you, and you, I think, have really modeled and been an exemplar within the state in terms of the ways that staff development and the culture around staff development is really nurtured and really focused on building a reflective practice. And I mean, I think there's so many points of evidence, even if we look at the the individual school building strategic plans and just how those have changed in your tenure. And so I think all in all, there's so much to celebrate. It's been a great year. I know the coming year will be great as well. And the school district, you have the school district's full confidence. We're thrilled with the job that you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Anything that others would add?
Take a bow.
All right. Anyone who wants to read the 14 pages, feel free to check those out in the record.
If I may?
Yes.
Would it be, I know Michelle has access, is it okay if she prints that out?
Oh, yeah, I assumed it had, so
Yeah.
yes. I
Well,
can.
I didn't want to, I was tempted.
You're
Because
welcome.
I could open, but I didn't.
You are
So I'll have
you're more
Michelle.
than welcome to.
If I could just say that the positive things that you mentioned is because of the team, but the needs improvement is all on me. So we will, that will be reflected. It's not currently a goal. There are 2 goals. There will be a 3rd goal based on that needs improvement. So but thank you very much for the vote of confidence.
Thank you.
I have a very strong team, so I'm very, very lucky. Most of them were here when I came, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I appreciate them very much.
All right. Yes, it is in the folder. It's the Ruprecht SY. It's the one that I think was finalized around 4 a.m. on election night. I think I put the final sentence in as Alaska was reporting. All right. No chairperson's notes. Topics for discussion not reasonably anticipated.
I feel like a toddler, and I hope nobody has any unless they are dire.
I have 1 more minute.
Oh, okay. I was like,
About to jump over this table.
all right. Communications. Oh,
Just one on, when I did the, 2 things. One, when I did the tour for the, my 50th reunion people, as we went through the school, they could not believe that the school was a 1-year-old. Everything was spotless. They absolutely could not get beyond the fact that the school's almost 10 years old already. So that should be relayed to the rest of to the committee there. And secondly, I was at a UMass Missouri football game, beat down in Amherst. I don't know why Missouri came out there. The SEC team came out to do what they did at the University of Massachusetts. But while I was there, watching the UMass band, which is clearly the best band in New England, there was 350 to 400 people in the band. The drum major is Keanu Smith, who is a saxophonist and was a drum major here at Shirley. And she had solos in the pit band during the presentation. So that's it. I don't know how much you guys know about bands, but it's a very political place and it's very hard. Drum major is something you start very early trying to press around, but she impressed enough people to get that position. So
Nice.
awesome. All right. Ashley.
It's me. Thursday, November 14th, 90-minute early release. That's for grades 9 through 12 for conferences. Dismissal time is 12:55. Also on the 14th, I don't think that's correct, but Page Hilltop PTO meeting. They just had one last week. So I will read it, but that might not be correct.
We'll double check that and we can send out a correction
Okay.
email if necessary.
So it's listed as a meeting on Thursday, 7 p.m. at Cultural Arts Center. Friday, November 15th, 90-minute early release, grades 9 through 12 for conferences. Monday, November 18th is the Town of Shirley Annual Fall Town Meeting. It's at 7:15 at the Middle School Auditorium.
It's a very important one, by the way.
They all are, Joyce.
Wednesday, November 20th, Special Education Parent Advisory Council meeting, 6:30, Laura White Library. Thursday, November 21st is the ASRHS Fall Sports Banquet, 6:30 at the high school. Wednesday, November 27th through Friday, November 29th will be the Thanksgiving break, no school. Tuesday, December 3rd, school committee meeting, 6:30 p.m. in the high school media center. And then Monday, December 9th, report cards will be issued for grades preschool through 8.
All right. I hope everyone enjoys that extra Wednesday. Great. Is there a need for executive session?
Not this time.
All right. With that, I would
I make a motion that we adjourn at, I can't quite see it, but it looks like 9.
9 on the dot.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.